Okay, let's watch this one, this video. The Arcane season 2 teaser trailer is playing. I'm pretty sure this is with us, Sinch and Warwick. Let's see what Nick Reed cooked.
Why is this the top comment on that video? Oh. Well, it's about time. Since we are getting Arcane 2 by the end of this year, it would make sense for them to start teasing it now. I mean, if you look back, this is exactly what they've done with Season 1. It wasn't until we got to the year of the release that we started getting all the teasers. Which, by the way, looking back, I can tell you right now, it is totally safe to watch all the trailers and all the teasers. Fortiche is specifically cutting the trailers in such a way so that they never reveal any storylines. In fact, they are so
Smart.
good at editorial misdirections that they often evoke false theories from a lot of people. Yeah, I made like 5 breakdown videos before Arcane 1, only one of those theories was right. So you're totally fine to watch all of it, there will be no spoilers. Anyway, with leaks update for season 2024, we did finally get our first proper look at Arcane 2, where it was revealed that for obvious reasons, Singed will be a very important
Important, correct.
character for
Yep.
season 2. But also, he'll be up there with Mbessa Medarda, who was
All
revealed to
right,
be a bit
yeah.
more important in League's latest gameplay update. And it just so happens to be that these two already might have some really interesting links. So without further
Okay.
ado, let's jump into our first breakdown of Arcane Season 2. Even though I think that's a lie. I think we already did one for the announcement. Why do I keep making these? Well, we are 4 seconds in, there is pitch darkness, and we already have stuff to talk about. What you can
The
hear in the
growling
background
from
is the
Warwick.
sound of a music box.
Oh,
Specifically,
right.
it is
They
the
completely
ballerina
ignored that.
music box, which is often used as a jewelry box. Or historically, it very often became a toy for girls. And since it might be teasing a ballerina music box, it should be ringing some bells for some other theories. But don't
Oh,
worry.
Oriana, right. Oh shit. I don't know why I was thinking when. Like the character when. With Senna and all of that. Like, why? No. Oriana. Makes sense, right?
We'll get to all of that in just a second. Now after this, the scene reveals Singed's hand, with the little device around his hand which you might find in your grandma's home, which is measuring pulse. Anyway, more importantly, you can see that Singed is siphoning out his own blood. That's right, the blood is not going in, it's
He's
getting
going.
out.
Oh,
Which raises
okay.
a lot of questions around which we already have quite some theories. Now what's cool is that in this scene, besides just the music box, the first thing you hear is an exhale, which is supposed to make you think that this is a sound that Singed is making. But in reality, it is the bestial exhale of Warwick. What's even cooler is that if you listen closely, the first thing you hear is the banging of metal pipes in the background. I could have actually
Oh,
turned this into a
yeah.
meme. This is an awesome hidden reference to Warwick's theme from League of Legends, which utilized similar metal pipes for the instruments. Not to mention, Riot is using the exact same sounds for Warwick when he's chasing people in League of Legends. Now up until this point, it was
Ah,
always
interesting.
just
I
metal
see.
sounds in the background. But now it seems like Arcane might be giving these sounds a bit more meaning. Maybe it will end up being sounds that evoke traumatic experiences. Because Arcane is kinda known for giving everything a reason. After which we get a creepy scene where Singed wakes up. Yes, don't forget, this is actually what he looks like without the mask. And in case you forgot, he looks like this because his face was burned by an explosion of shimmer. We then get a series of shots that leads us around
I don't
all the
remember.
pipes.
I don't remember him with the mask. I might have to look at it
All of which
from
are
the first
siphoning
season.
out his blood. And that's all while we can still hear the feral sounds in the background. But then, somewhat subtle but very important, we get a shot of Singed's blood being mixed into all called the Green Tanks, which many of you may know is very iconic for Warwick, who has one of these tanks jammed into his body.
Oh
But
yeah, the
it
blood is there
may not
too.
be as iconic for Singed, who throughout the entire Arcane has always experimented with Shimmer. Well, it turns out there may be a very good reason why there is no Shimmer in sight here. But that is actually related to the overall story arc and what he's trying to achieve here. We'll get to all of that in just a moment. After that, the shot goes back to his hand where it zooms out, and as you can see, he's holding the pendant, which was previously revealed to hold the picture of his daughter, which is supposed to tease that he is doing all of these creepy experiments for his daughter. After which we
What?
get the grand badass reveal that Singed is indeed working on the creation of Warwick. And for some reason, he is infusing him with his own blood. Cool
That's
45
interesting.
seconds of a teaser, huh? Why is there still so much time left on this video? Why
True.
is there still so much time? Well, it turns out, once again, Fortiche and Riot are just really good at hiding Easter eggs and stories all over the place. Because already we can dig quite far with the theories. So let's dive in one at a time. Now, before we talk about the dangling elephant in the room, we have to talk about some other things which are expected of Singed in Season 2. You see, even though Riot recently confirmed that Arcane is now turning into being fully canon, and therefore it overwrites some of the stories from the original universe, there are some stories outside of just Piltover and Zaun which some of our favorite champions still have to touch. And in Singed's case, despite the retconning, he still has one big achievement under his belt.
The Noxus poison thing that he did for the war.
He is supposed to be influential for the Noxian invasion of Ionia.
Yes,
That's right.
Ionia,
Long
right.
story short, at one point, under the leadership of a madman, Noxus decided to invade the Ionian continent. And they used the most horrifying weapons imaginable: children.
Oh
Because
wow.
Noxians were counting on the fact that Ionians wouldn't fight back against them. But also chemical bombs. And it
Oh,
just so
chemical
happens to
bombs.
be that according to the original
I thought it was
story,
poison.
those chemical weapons were supplied to Noxus by Singed. Which means that while this entire story is happening in Arcane, Singed should get in touch with Noxus. And he should give them the formula to some chemical weapons, which eventually would be used to annihilate Ionia. Enter Ambessa Medarda, a Noxian warlord who
Oh.
just happens to be overseeing the work of her daughter in Piltover. That's right, right now it is very likely that Singed will get in touch with Ambessa, and they
This is a good way to connect the story, huh?
will strike a deal which will make Singed produce weapons of mass destruction. But why would Singed do this? He's not inherently an evil man. Well, he needs funding. I mean, I don't think he can exactly do all of this with just the scrap from the bottom of Zaun. So the benefits on Singed side should be obvious. With this said, I would still like to raise a concern. If Riot manages to put all of this into the storyline of Arcane, the timeline for all of these events should be really precise. Because the invasion of Ionia didn't happen too long ago, and with one simple mistake, you could just invent time travel. So just to be safe, it is also possible that Riot will ignore Singed's connection to the invasion.
I mean, but also I'm pretty sure Jinx and well, I'm gonna use Jinx because I know that one. Uh in the ending of Arcane, the first season, she was like 17 or 18 years old. In the main story, like the present time, she's like 32 or something like that. She's an adult now. She's like 30, 31, 32. So 9 years ago, I think it's possible because Jinx is only 17, 18. So 9 years later, 18. She would be like 27, 28, something like that. So it's about pretty much the main story, just add a couple extra years. Oh, I see. What that is probably what Necri means. That is, it's a little. It needs to be precise because it's really not there. Maybe they need maybe a little time skip at the beginning. Have Jinx being like 21 or 22 years old, because 9 years, if you add that, that is like 30, 31. Maybe if they do that, let's see.
And they might just retcon Singed being the supplier. That would be the safest option.
No,
Regardless, in one way or another, Singed needs
that is
funding.
his main theme.
Funding he'll most likely use on his main dangling experiment. So let's dive into that one. See, now that Riot turned Arcane fully canon, which again means that Arcane's version of Singed is overwriting the original one, we can assume that the original version of Singed inspired the Arcane version in many ways. For once, Singed being responsible for the creation of Warwick was always part of his core lore, and one could argue that's the moment that defines who Singed is. Although I have to say, the way this story was portrayed in the original version was still a lot more brutal than this one. The thing is, here we can only see the later stages of the transformation. All the extremely brutal experiments happened right before this. But now you may be asking, why would Singed be doing these experiments? Well, the simple answer is survival. And that's not only related to his daughter, it may also be related to himself. You see, in the original story, Singed was corrupted by some kind of a sickness. And so every awful experiment he has done was done with noble goals. It was to find a way to rejuvenate mortal bodies. This is what turned him into such a great villain in the original lore. He knew the only way to break through with his research was by doing really awful experiments. There was no way around it, so he tried to do the most vile things in the most ethical way possible. The thing is,
Okay.
even the most ethical ways gave us some of the best horror stories. For example, in one story, he took a smart man with a disease that made his bones fragile, and he had sewn his body on top of a strong man who was mentally handicapped. He wanted to
What the
see if the
fuck?
smart crippled man could be given a second chance at life by borrowing the body of a strong man with little to no mental activity. The outcome was unfortunately that both bodies kind of
Died?
became the same person, which
Oh,
means that the fragile man did now have a strong body, but his IQ quickly went down. Still one of the best horror stories League ever got, by the way. Now, how was this ethical, you might ask? Well, his argument was that he kidnapped two people from the streets of Zaun who had no families, they had no accomplishments ever done, they essentially wasted their entire lives, and if they disappeared, no one would notice. That was Singed's moral line. He would do these awful things, but he made sure he would do them on the most wasteful lives. Look, I
okay.
told you even the most ethical ways were vile. Now, why did I tell you this entire awful story? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he had very similar motivations in Arcane. If you go back through the entire series, he was always working on experiments related to life and medicine. When he worked on Shimmer at the very beginning, where he used it on rats, and later kids from the streets, he used the formula to make them stronger. Later, when he gave it to Victor, he refined it to help Victor regain control over his muscles. This is where we got that beautiful running scene. And that was all while he was experimenting on Rio, who started as a healthy lizard, but over time, things did not start looking good. All just as Singed was probably looking for ways to help him. To me, all of this paints a decently clear picture. A picture for which we have to assume one thing is true. I'm not sure if this is a spoiler to anyone anymore, but it is extremely likely that Vander is Warwick. And here, it definitely
Hmm.
seems like Singed is trying to figure out a way how
I
to.
mean, if they make, I don't remember the name bundle. Fuck, he said it. And I forgot at the moment. I did. Okay, if he's, I'm gonna call it bundle. That is a good way to connect it, to connect the story to the characters from Arcane one. with with Vi and Jinx. So I think that is really cool. And also, um, oh, for what is the name? Echo, I think.
to bring Vander back. Because all things considered, Vander was nearly dead, and Singed is willing to go as far to bring him back that he's sacrificing his own body with this transfusion. And that would all be done with the ultimate goal to figure out, potentially, how to help his daughter. Don't worry, we are getting to the point. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, well, what's up with Warwick being a werewolf? And what's up with all the green liquids, even though Singed has always worked with Shimmer? Well, this is where I'd like to propose a theory. What Singed is doing here is that he's trying to figure out how to nullify the effects of Shimmer. That's why you can't see Shimmer anywhere around him. It's because he is trying to get rid of it. You see, throughout the entire course of Arcane 1, Singed figured out how to use Shimmer to enhance mortal bodies. In many ways, Shimmer became beneficial to many people, but it still had the addictive, corrupting side effects, which can corrupt your mind, and overall, I still believe all of this is linked to the Void. So if Singed figures out how to use Shimmer to heal people and then remove the Shimmer from their bodies afterwards, he would not only invent the ultimate way to help people, but he would
Wait,
also
that's
figure out
smart.
a way how to potentially bring people back. Although there is a slight catch. You'll see that this all aligns with Vander pretty well. He was infused with Shimmer, which kinda turned him into a shimmering Hulk, after which he nearly died. And it seems like what kept him alive was the Shimmer in his body. So now Singed is in the process of figuring out how to stabilize him and how to get rid of the Shimmer. All of which suggests a really awful thing. You see, in order to heal people like this, Singed needs to first infuse them with Shimmer. This is also likely why Rio was infused with Shimmer later in the series. He was sick, he was about to die, and Singed knew the only way to keep him alive was by using Shimmer. Only by turning him into a purplish zombie would Singed be able to help him eventually. But this also means that if he is doing all of this for his daughter, there are two potential outcomes. Either his daughter had died and now he's doing all of these experiments as a way to redeem himself, or his daughter is
Or cope.
alive. And if she is not looking too good right now. You see, all of this would also line up with the theory that his daughter could
It's
be
Oriana.
Oriana, even though in the
What?
original story, Oriana's father was Corin Revek. Because if it turns out that Singed is her father in the new canon, then Singed's methods should fail. He shouldn't be able to heal her using Shimmer, and as a result, they should eventually replace her entire body with mechanical parts. What's interesting about this is that a similar thing may as well happen to Victor, who was also infused with Shimmer. Still, the scariest
Oh,
thing is
oh,
actually at the end of Arcane 1. Because there, Singed infused Jinx with Shimmer too. But
oh,
eventually,
yeah.
all of that Shimmer would be better out of her body. And even though somehow I don't believe that's going to happen, I still believe that Singed will come out with some kind of a formula that will mitigate all the side effects of Shimmer. Because somehow Jinx is still supposed to turn from her zombie like state into the cleaned up version, which still turns out to be crazy. But yeah, that is just a theory.
Hmm.
Well, what a 45-second teaser this was, huh? Once again, both Riot and Fortiche prove that they are just masters at hiding evidence. Which is unironically one of the reasons why Arcane 1 was so good. We could talk about these for days. Now, I don't know how many more of these teasers we'll get before the release, but I'll be here for all of them. And yeah, just
Same.
remember that the season 2024 cinematic is right behind the corner. Speaking
One
of
more
which,
day, one more day, one more day. I
that
can't
guy was a
wait.
prophet.
I mean, the video was at the end 17 minutes, not 45. So, oh, hmm. I hope Sinch is connected to the Naxos um invasion to Ionia. How or why? I don't know. Maybe like a one last desperate thing decision to get money or something. I don't know, but I hope he is part of that. Okay. Necro can get a 15-minute video of a 10-second clip. You really like the Oriana being Singe's daughter theory? Singe is doing all of this experimentation to find a method of curing his daughter, but what if he eventually turns to Victor, just as Victor asks things to help him? Oh, I see. That could be a good idea. Will turn his eroding body into machine Singe by asking him to do the same for his daughter. So this means Victor will be the one doing it for Oriana. Maybe with Jace, but I don't think Jace is part of that story. I don't think he's in the lore of the game. I don't think he's part of that. So maybe they could add it. I don't know. I'm interested to see the reasoning why he chose Vander to be worked with. Was it just because he was already almost dead, or in front of him, or was there a more specific reason? I mean, I guess they could use um, Vander because he's also a very important character for the main cast. Like just entertainment, entertainment. They just decided to go that way. Riot decided, but who knows? Yeah, that's that was a really good teaser. That was a nice 17-minute video right here by Necrit. In 8 months, we get the season 2, so fuck, I can't wait. It's gonna be so good. Oof.